Guys, it's almost been 5 months since we moved our Blue Tongue Skinks outside, and today we're gonna show you how they're doing.
And stick around to the end of the video. We're going to show you our most anticipated Blue Tongue breeding project. All right, and we're gonna start with some controversy. This is our albino, or what do you think this is exactly? Like a hypo or albino, amelanistic, what?
I kind of change from month to month. It looks pretty albino, but when you look at the eyes, it's not really red.
Maybe a T positive albino?
Could be. So we're trying to figure out what's going on with this animal. Gorgeous Maruki, and we actually have it paired to some really nice
northerns.
Some really nice northerns.
The reason I say controversy is because people do not want to be hybridizing blue tongues. This is a Maruki and these are northerns. These are from Australia and those are from New Guinea, right?
Yes.
So why do people get mad? Didn't you get banned one day because you posted some hybrid skinks?
Yeah.
You got banned off of a Facebook group.
So I actually posted some. They weren't even my hybrid skinks. I just posted them. And yeah, the groups back then especially were very much purists. I think the both are very important because you can introduce a lot of cool genes and mutations into these animals through the hybridization. And since we have a very limited gene pool, it could actually help strengthen the babies in future generations. But yeah. I think it's also very important to be honest that, hey, this is a hybrid animal. You know, I would never be deceitful about that.
And guys, keep in mind, hybrid Blue Tongue Skinks, it's not like we're gonna be getting any more blood from Australia. So what Manny said is important because what we got in the States is basically it. And if you pay attention to the Blue Tongue Skinks, the northern Blue Tongue Skinks in the market, a lot of them are starting to show like really bad underbites or tail kinks or spinal kinks. We have even seen them in our collection sometimes. These animals are gonna be bred for the pet trade, and as long as they're healthy, we don't really see a problem with hybridizing these guys. We have seen it with the tegus in the past. The albino tegus were some of the strongest, you know, tegus once they started hybridizing them. Hopefully, both of these girls are gravid. We see some marks on them.
You can see the tail drain too. She's starting to get a little bit, the hips, the spine's starting to come out a little bit. A lot of breeding marks. So hopefully he got them bred. You can see them also like around the back, the shoulders. You can start seeing the spine come out on these guys a little bit. So hopefully we'll start seeing some more progress with them and some babies soon.
And the babies would be they would all look like normals, but they would be carrying whatever gene this is, either T positive albino or a hypo or something.
Show off that belly. Look at that beautiful belly. I can't wait to mix that with like high red animals, yellow animals, just, you know, have so much fun with that. The hypocalicos, everything.
Yeah, and if you notice some of the differences between the Marukis and the Northerns is when you see his tongue, it's not fully blue. So like the very tip is blue and then you have some more of that pinkish coloration on the tongue. But the Northerns will actually have a fully blue tongue.
Which you can see from this girl because she's flicking it off a lot.
She's flicking it.
And also you could tell another indication is the arm pattern. So if you look at that Maruki, even though like, you know, he might be a hypo albino so you don't really see it too well, the front arms. You could see it's like a speckled patterning while the Northerns have more of a clean gray pattern, coloration to their arms.
All right. Let's put these guys back. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, when we keep these animals outside, you have to kind of like adjust with the seasons because now it's starting to get hot here in Florida. We have to make sure that we're not overdoing the heat with them. Now they're in this area where it stays nice and dry because of all the sun that they're getting. They're basically in open sun here. We do have some temporary, you know, tub lids basically to create more shade. Once we get heavy into the summer months, we'll probably put something that's gonna be more permanent because it's also gonna shield them from the rain. It starts to rain here a lot in Florida, especially in the area we live in. So that's gonna work to basically shield them from the sun. If they wanna get away from the sun, they could go hide, and from the rain so they stay dry. You don't want Northerns or these guys to be wet all the time.
Yeah, some of the hot days I've temp gunned it already, and some areas get 122 degrees. So it gets real nice and warm.
Yeah.
That's why it's very important to have that shade. And even in that high heat, you're gonna see these animals out and basking all the time. But it's important once they reach their desired body temp that they can go hide in the shade for as long as they want.
And we mentioned this last time on the first video we did when we first put these guys outside, but when you're keeping them in groups, it's so important that you actually watch your animals for the first couple weeks that you put them together, and that you give them enough hiding spots and visual barriers. So she tried to get me. so they don't just go after each other. Blue tongues want to feel secure, but they don't want to be in constant sight of each other. You saw that?
Yeah,
and look at this.
She's a little.
Yeah, she's
crazy.
just a little skittish. She's not. Oh, she probably got me. You see that? So this is one of our
hypocalico outcrosses.
Hypocalico. That's the hypocalico
Right
calico there. And then we have some really high orange, yellow, and then some red ones with it.
So this gene is pretty cool. It kind of starts out as a normal animal, but lighter. And as it gets older, as it keeps growing, it just loses all of that melanin. And you can see he essentially has not a single spot of melanin on his body. His eyes are also different from a normal northern. A normal northern's gonna have more orange eyes. It's like a lighter, like, I don't even know what color you would like call that.
Yeah, like a lighter brown. And those guys are pure northern. Somebody literally just asked me the other day if there is a Key Island.
It kind of looks like it, but as far as my knowledge knows, it's a pure northern. These guys come from Germany.
As far as my knowledge knows.
Yeah, as far as I know, these guys are pure northerns. They come from Germany. A guy named Taliqua Joe actually produced most of these animals.
First name Taliqua, last
right?
name Joe.
Something that I noticed with the outcrosses is that it almost, to me, as a, with the limited knowledge and experience I have with that mutation, it almost acts like an enchi, like in ball pythons. It makes it like a lighter, brighter animal. This was actually, the mothers are regular, normal yellow. And both of the outcrosses I have are some like very, very bright yellow animals. I'm hoping that, that's how that works. That's why I'm throwing in a red northern here to make it like a really, really bright red northern. But I have a lot of hypocalico groups with a lot of bright yellows, some Swedish line, just to see what that mutation does.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see once we start mixing this with some of our other color mutations, and this girl's having enough of me, so I'm gonna put her back. One of the challenges that we had in the beginning was some of the skinks were, in shock, and at first they didn't take to each other very well, and you could see this one's missing the very tip of the tail right there. So we were monitoring them, just making sure that they weren't gonna actually do some real harm to each other. But after some time, they took to each other well, and with enough hides, they're just living together now without a problem.
It's just one of the things I kind of expected with these guys, because they can be notoriously aggressive with each other, but when you give them proper space, proper hiding spots, and all of that, they can calm down and get used to each other pretty well. I always recommend keeping these guys alone, mainly because we always kept them in racks. And in rack systems, they would not have done well together. But in these large outdoor enclosures with a lot of food, I'm feeding these guys twice a week now. I usually only fed my adult northerns once a week, but being out here with this heat, they're moving all around, doing exercise, climbing, digging, hiding. They seem like they needed that extra food, and with all that extra food, they've also calmed down towards each other.
Yeah, and how big are these enclosures? I forgot.
These are about 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and about 2.5 feet tall.
Okay, so they got plenty of space. And also keep in mind, guys, if you want perfect animals, we always say don't breed them, because things happen with geckos, with skinks, with any type of animal that you breed. Especially lizards, they could be very rough with each other. They start to bite each other, and then things like this can happen. You could actually see, some of the scales that have been kind of like scarred here, but this in no time will heal, and the skink is perfectly fine. This is not an open wound. It doesn't hurt the skink, but something that Manny does when he does see open wounds, that he uses betadine and basically cleans it right away, so there's no infections, and the skinks can heal perfectly fine, like this one here.
And all these scars are pretty normal, especially during breeding season, because the male's always just going to be chasing the females around and around and around. And a lot of times they're aiming for the shoulder, but a lot of times they hit everywhere else, the tails,
so they'll
feet,
bite the tail,
shoulders, back, head. So it's very normal for them to have these marks at this time of the year, and then later on in the year they completely heal.
All right, so this is another project we're super excited about. This is our high black project. And as you can see, this animal here is just completely covered in black. This girl is actually in shed, but you can see how much black pattern she has. So the idea is to create just like a fully black northern blue tongue skink. And this is an animal we actually produced here. So this is a project that, a lot of people have been working on, and we've gotten some of the best lines out there to add to our stuff. And we're super stoked to start producing some of these. Hopefully this girl here is gravid.
Yeah, this girl also feels pretty thick, but that one
Yeah.
actually looks more gravid to me because of the tail, the spine a little bit. But hopefully all these guys pop out a lot of babies, so we're gonna be overrun with little baby sausages. Man, she just
Nails
bit me right in the face.
So when Manny's talking about the spine and the skink, when Manny's talking about the spine and the hips, what he's referring to is when sometimes these animals are gravid, they'll start to kind of like swell up their belly, and you can start to see a little bit of their spine and a little bit of their hips showing, because there's basically, the babies are taking up their whole belly and they're not eating as much, and it's just, you know, creating those babies inside of them is just taking all the nourishment from them. So it's important to, you know, have them well fed and stuff, but during that time, honestly, they're not even eating that much.
Yeah, once they get super full with babies, they just completely stop eating. Look at that,
Yeah, look at the
dude.
tail on these guys. So
It's
cool.
black.
Yeah.
Your photo.
Black skinks are all cool and all, but we have the complete opposite to this thing, and it's one of our most anticipated projects of Blue Tongue Skinks we have ever done. The Ivory Blue Tongue Skinks, and guess what? They actually bred. We're going to show you what we bred them to, and we should have some ivories hopefully this year, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully. These guys out here, we're not exactly sure how they're gonna produce because it's the first year we put them out here. We are pretty confident that moving forward in the next couple of years, they're actually gonna do a lot better, getting natural UV, natural sun, you know, getting really nice and warm, and we have high expectations for them out here. But let's go show you our Ivory Blue Tongue Skinks. All right, so this right here is one of our Ivory Blue Tongue Skinks, and this guy's a male, and he actually bred to 3 different females, including another Ivory. Now, he is not very happy, he's peeing everywhere, but you could see these guys are just so stunning, just pure white, a leucistic blue tongue basically, and he's just
He's about to poop.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah.
Put his little bottom right there, but you want to show
I'll
off
show
the
off.
females?
Yeah, so with these guys, I kind of wanted to mix them with everything that I could. This is a really nice yellow female. She's kind of going to shed, so it's not very bright, but she is a bright, nice yellow animal. Now, we're not only excited to produce visual ivories, but also the heads, because the heads are actually really stunning animals themselves. They make the animal very, very light and bright. So I wanted to make sure I got to mix it with some nice yellows. In the coming years, I'm gonna mix it to Swedish stuff, to sunsets, basically everything I can. Another one that we mixed it to was a Swedish to a red animal. Unfortunately, she's just starting to get out of the shed, so the color, again, is just not as nice as it usually is, but just a very, very bright orange animal. And I kind of wanted to make sure we paired this thing to everything that's nice and brightly colored, because like I was telling you, those heads, we don't have any heads right now to kind of show you, but the heads make incredible animals as well.
We have seen, you know, a good variety, the Ivory Blue Tongues. They're not just all white, and a lot of them actually keep the orange color on top. We have even seen one that has almost like Dalmatian spots, which is really cool. So I think as we start to mix it and breed it to different animals, we'll start to see more, you know, different traits come through to the ivory, to the actual visual ones.
Believe it or not, I'm more excited about the heads than the visuals.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like the visuals, like some do keep the color, but you know, for the most part, they all fade white.
Yeah.
With the heads, I think it's just gonna add another another layer dimension to the coloration of Blue Tongue Skinks, ranging from the reds, the yellows, oranges, the black ones, everything. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds with these ivory and het ivory Blue Tongue Skinks.
Yep.
So one of my biggest concerns when building these outdoor enclosures and setting up the groups is that northern Blue Tongue Skinks are notoriously aggressive with each other. So I was expecting to see some violence, especially when they first get introduced to each other. That's why we introduced them in the coldest months of the year, just so you know their metabolism is slower and they're less likely to fight. Thankfully, I only had to remove one skink. Out of all the groups we set up, I only had to remove one skink, and it was actually the one I was worried about the most, is this male, because he is a smaller male. The females I threw him with weren't too much bigger than him, but he was smaller than all of them. So that's what I was worried about. And he actually, You could see he had the tail nip, which is not too bad. He actually also had an injury in his jaw where he couldn't even close his jaw. But all you can see, all I did was separate him, put him back in the racks temporarily, and look, he's as good as new. Whenever cohabiting any animal, make sure you're always keeping an eye on it. It might not always be physical violence that can cause an animal to go downhill, but also like psychological. So that's why it's very important to keep an eye on them, make sure they're all keeping a healthy weight, and just always constantly looking at them, because they can be together for years and out of nowhere an animal could just start getting bullied for no apparent reason.
Keeping the blue tongues out here, at least for like us, we've definitely enjoyed them a lot more than when they were back in the racks. Now, obviously we've done it in racks, a lot of breeders have done it in racks. Not everybody has the ability to keep them outside like this, so we're just like really, you know, happy that we can keep them outside and that we're starting to see them basking. We're starting to see so many different behaviors that we weren't seeing when they were back in the racks.
Eating together.
Yeah, eating together. So many different things that you wouldn't expect, and traditionally we were like, we thought we would never see, like Manny said, just eating together. We thought that blue tongues can never be in the same enclosure or they would like destroy each other. But turns out there's pretty much exceptions to everything, and as long as you understand the animals, know what to look out for, they could actually do very decently. It's not bad for, how many skinks are out there?
Probably,
Like
what's
3?
16 times 3, quick math.
Yeah.
That's like 48.
Yeah,
Good.
so out of 48 skinks, there was only one issue. And honestly, Manny projected that into the universe, so that's why probably it happened. But it was a smaller skink, a smaller male. We'll just have to watch him, and now he's all good. That's why we're showing you guys him. But by next year, he might even be ready to go again.
Yeah, he was ready to breed this year in the Rex, but I was like, no, man, you gotta heal. I know, like a man, all you want to do is breed.
Yeah.
But no, so he took the year off, but like he's gonna be ready to go next year.
All right, guys, that wraps up this video. Hope you enjoyed our little update. Make sure you go on the website if you want some baby blue tongue skinks. We should be having babies pretty soon, so make sure you sign up to our email notification and you will be notified when the babies pop.
And if you like all of our content, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We got it all: Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, everything, man. Anything that's out there we have, make sure you follow us, TikisGeckos.
Tikis chickens now.